Hey everybody, this is Roto Motion and Douglas GB, known as John and Douglas. We are going to record a series of small videos. I guess we'll call them, we'll call this Season 1, Episode 1, to show you how to use specific features and ways that you can use the FPGA cat box to solve problems on your broken PCBs. Today's episode is surrounded around the setup tab, and Douglas is going to lead on the setup tab during this episode, and I'm going to act on behalf of you and ask questions that I asked when I was first learning how to do the setup tab from Fred. So Douglas, take it away.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Fred, this is an amazing tool, and Fred's doing his own videos that focus more on the features, but we're going to do it more from a usability path. So, like, okay, if you're faced with this setup screen, Fred's explained what all the buttons do, but which ones, like, how do you actually use it? And the first is to tell the program which port the tester is connected to. Mine's on COM4, and then you open that, and you'll know you're successful if these lights light up green. Now, the first one is port open. That'll light up just as long as the tester is turned on and the USB cable is connected. The second one is if the tester is connected to the board. Right now, this one's connected to a Space Dual board, and the Space Dual board is turned on, so that's why it can detect the clock of the Atari game PCB, and it even tells you how fast that clock is running.
Douglas, what the heck is tester version field? What is that? That seems to be different on mine, or different at different times.
Yeah, so that depends on which the tester version is the kind of the operating system, if you will, that's on Fred's board, that's running on the tester itself. And then down here, the software version, that's this screen we're looking at now. That's the version of the software that is talking to the board and telling it what to do.
And we can find both of those up in the Google Drive that Fred has posted in Clav.
Right, yeah. So here, if I turn my Space Dual board off, you'll see that little clock light goes out and the frequency disappears because the port is still open. The software is still talking to the tester, but the tester can't talk to the board. So turn it back on. Now, when I say it's talking to the board, how's it going to do that? There are a couple ways it can do that. The first one is Atari boards, at least some of them, have a little test connector. What did Atari called it? Here's Space Dual schematics.
It's kind of an edge card, right?
Test connector. It is like an edge. It is an edge connector. It's much more. It's higher density than the edge connector that you normally use to hook it up to your cabinet, and it's normally not connected to anything. And this tells you what signals it carries. It has all the address lines and the data lines and some other stuff. So you could, from the tester, you could plug that ribbon cable into this little test connector down near the CPU on the Atari board. But even if you do that, you're still going to have to, it doesn't have all the signals that it needs. So you still would have to take the CPU out of the board and plug in Fred's Catbox CPU card and make sure you use the right one, because I once used the wrong one. Doesn't hurt it, but it's just use the right one. In my book, since you're doing that anyway, I just have the ribbon cable from the tester to the CPU adapter, and then the CPU adapter plugged in to the CPU socket.
So Douglas, hold on one second. So I got to make sure I'm doing this right. So I have a ribbon cable plug into I have an Atari Space Duel board in front of me. So this is pointing upwards. So at the bottom right, I have that edge card connector, and I have my ribbon with the red um, wire at the bottom, and then I'm plugging into that edge card connector. Did I do it right?
Yeah, you can do it that way. Um, the ribbon has a little key on it, so you can't plug it in wrong on the tester side. Uh, you could plug it in wrong on the Atari side, but if you use that test connector on the edge of the board, then yeah, the red striped cable, that's pin 1, will be closer to, well, as you said, the bottom of the board, or on Space Duel, it's where there's a little letter in a box that says the revision of the board. It's closer to row 1 of the ROMs. But
Oh,
again, you're going to need to take the CPU out and plug in that little um, adapter board anyway. So what again, I don't bother with the test connector and that cable. I just use the ribbon cable that both ends are the same, and it goes from the tester to the CPU adapter.
okay. So warning, guys. If you're going to use the edge card connector, make sure pin 1, which is the red wire, is at the lower portion of your Atari board if it's pointing, up and down with, long ways up and down.
That should make the ribbon come up. I mean, it'd be hard to plug it in. If you plugged it in backwards, then the board wouldn't sit flat on the bench because the cable exits the connector, the wrong way. It should be coming up. All right. So this tells me that my hookups are all correct. I have my clock. That is, you may know that Atari boards, a lot of them use a 12 megahertz clock. If you can see on the schematics here, Y1 is 12.096. That clock goes into this counter and gets divided a couple times. It gets divided in half for 6, and then again for 3, and then again for 1.5. This 1.5 is the frequency that feeds the CPU. So, and you can see it's coming in over here, and that goes to pin 37 on a 6502. That is the one that's called out here. So if you're hooked up here and you have all these happy indicators, then you're hooked up right.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right, that's it for hookup and status indicators and all that kind of stuff. The next video, we're going to go into what do you do now. You load a configuration, and that'll tell you about the specifics of the board, and you can get some testing done.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. This was episode 1. Bye-bye.